I think I'm an artist primarily because, I love art. I can't imagine doing anything else. I live and breathe it. I wake up thinking about it and I go to sleep thinking about it. And, in my spare time, if I'm not in the studio, I'm kind of imagining what I could make in the studio. I think it's this real romantic obsession that I have. Come on. I'm interested in the way in which imagery and religious imagery across specifically Asia have kind of evolved through instances like trade and encounter. People from different cultures thousands of years ago passing through those locations. And I think that's a really interesting part of society, the way in which our image making changes and morphs. Figurative sculpture is a really interesting genre in public space because I think they have a real placemaking function. People can identify with them in different ways. I'm not really an artist that's into formalism or kind of non-representational abstraction, for example. So I'm really excited to bring this kind of, larger than life deity being into this location in the Gold Coast. It was originally meant to be shown at the Melbourne Art Fair, so it was a commission that was partnered with the Melbourne Art Foundation, but it's going straight to its permanent location at the front of the new HOTA building. So I went up to the Gold Coast to look at the site. It was interesting to kind of think about the kind of physical and urban surroundings that the work would be placed amongst. I think the first thing I noticed about the Gold Coast was that there was lots of neon, there was lots of fiberglass animals, lots of trees around. But the neon that I've kind of made, it's this, it's an interpretation of a scribble that was in my diary. So there might be some notes on this HOTA project or some kind of original speculations. Let me just check. But I guess you can kind of see that through the drawing process, I'm kind of able to figure out a lot of ideas about shape, colour, texture, form, energy, sentiment, whatever. And this is really my primary way of figuring out ideas, this kind of immediate expressive process. Actually making the fiberglass head, I started to do a lot of paintings and made a lot of templates in corrugated cardboard. And that's kind of how I work, like starting to mock things up with kind of not throwaway materials, but materials where I can actually be a bit expressive. So when I went and had to paint the actual fiberglass component, I kind of had a little bit of a framework of how I wanted to do it. I kind of love this, but it's going in the bin now. Goodbye. It's a 6 metre tall mixed media sculpture. So it includes concrete, bronze, neon, fiberglass. And I was really thinking about idolatry and figurative sculpture as they kind of appear in global spiritual cultures. Figurative sculpture is a really interesting genre and thing in public space because I think they have a real placemaking function. I was also looking at these kinds of guardian and protector figures across the Asia Pacific, and the way in which a lot of the time in these big important places, these figures, they're kind of scary and they're bold and they're vibrant, and they're meant to invite people in by scaring the bad stuff away. And I think that kind of tension and energy is a really good way to frame the entrance of a museum where thinking and culture takes place. I'd see all these kinds of colonial monuments, and they were big and tall and bronze, and they were on these massive concretey, marbly stone plinths. And I think what's kind of funny was I always thought they were a bit ugly. That kind of the weight of them, the seriousness, but at the same time I thought they were also weirdly camp. These men were kind of on heightened display. The proportions were a bit weird. They were a bit like 1.8 the size they'd normally be. And I think I've always found them kind of perverse in the fact that they kind of tower over audiences. They never reflected their audiences. When I thought about these and researched these colonial monuments, there's a real kind of function, civic function of these things that are premised on erasure, and also to kind of promote a very specific narrative that neglects the kind of diversity of culture that's existed in Australia for, 65,000 years. So I wanted to kind of engage with the language of these figures, but I wanted to kind of present something that was almost more democratic in a way. Like, the work's bright, there's a neon figure, there are smiling faces, and I really wanted the work to have an element of engagement that was also about joy. And I think a lot of figures in public spaces don't have that.